My name's Steve Flink. I'm the host of Soul Dive, and we're here to connect with people, to hear their stories, understand their journey, and really just have a good time. This is a natural setting where we get to hear people's experiences, and hopefully learn and grow. And this is all about everyone's experiences in life, you might say. And so we have Ashley Workman here. And she's beautiful, got a great husband, beautiful daughter, and I'm going to kind of introduce her and short introduction for her. But this is what it's all about. And so this is kind of what we call Ashley's Dive here. And we're grateful for Funk Studios for hosting us here, and Twisted Sugar, our sponsors. And so we'll bring up ways you can get a hold of us and contact us and all that at the end of it. But we're going to get rolling. So Ashley grew up in Southern California until she was 13. And then she moved with her parents here with her brother to Utah. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. So she went to Northridge High School, and she attended Weber State University.
Yes.
Found it? Yep. All right, my alma mater.
All right.
So, yeah. So this is good. Then she served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in, let me see, where was it? Chile?
Yep.
Is that right? I know I read it. I'm looking at my notes, but I can't even see it.
Chile.
Yeah, graduated there. Married in the temple and received her bachelor's degree in elementary and early childhood education. And shortly after, she married and has a beautiful 8-month daughter, and Jason, her husband, who we podcast just before this. Mm-hmm. And so this whole story, I'll kind of introduce kind of the whole story as we get going here, but this whole thing is about really Jason's childhood and some of the struggles he had. We went through that. And this is Ashley's childhood and teenage years and through her mission and her experiences which were pretty extreme. And then we're going to bring the two of them together because their story comes together as they marry.
Yes.
And then there's just a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That
we call it the bomb goes off.
The bomb goes off.
It does.
And so, we kind of all talked when we talked in the beginning that, we should just talk to Jason separately, talk to Ashley, kind of build your lives a little bit. And so, that's our goal here. So we'll bring it all to that point so there's a good understanding. And then we'll have Jason and Ashley in together, and we'll complete the whole segment of the podcast with these two. And so that's kind of the whole deal there. And we welcome you. We're brand new at this, so, there's no big assumptions. And, you know this, we know each other. And Jason, her husband, knows my children. And so this whole thing just kind of comes together. But I know almost no details about Jason's life in that sense, from his family life and some of that, and yours. Mm-hmm. And so what we'd like to do is let's just kick it off, and let's let everyone hear just briefly. Let's just start kind of on a time frame, of your life, and tell us about your family a little bit, and just a little bit of the structure, and then maybe you can introduce what the problem was, and we'll build to that and go through it. Right?
Great. Sounds great.
Perfect.
So yeah, like Steve said, I grew up in Southern California with my younger brother, just me and him, only 2 kids. And for as long as I can remember, both my parents worked full time. A lot of summers home alone with my brother, beating him up and not being the best big sister. But yeah, that's kind of a little background.
That's how it is, though. Yeah.
Yeah, very precise big sister being the bully. But
how much younger was he?
Only 10 months younger.
Oh, that's close.
So we're that's why there's 2, because they kind of got freaked out. So, so only 2 of us. And just pretty typical high school or growing up. I mean, in suburb of Southern California, living across the street from the elementary. Until my story kind of starts, I guess, when I was about 7 years old. My dad was usually the one that came in to tuck me in to bed every night. And I just remember, he just came in to tuck me into bed, and he actually proceeded to get into the bed with me, and actually molested me as a 7-year-old girl, his own daughter. And that's when all the problem that you called started.
So let me just I'm just gonna right there like so and for me I may ask questions that I don't understand because I haven't been through anything like that, right?
Okay.
And it pretty emotional right there, right? For me.
Yeah.
Just listening to you. Just from a perspective of my own daughters.
Yeah, you're a dad, yeah.
Yeah, and so I kind of just don't understand it, right?
Yeah.
So at 7 years old,
Yeah.
what do you remember what you were thinking or what? I mean, I'm just so, and as I thought about your story, this is the whole thing. I'd probably keep asking these kinds of
That's
questions
fine,
just
yeah.
because I just wonder, right?
Yeah.
What you thought from the beginning and then through. So, go into that a little
so
bit.
it's hard, I think, just as an adult now, it's hard, like memories keep coming up, and that's super common. But there are a lot of memories, especially like feelings of fear, like because it became a habit. I remember it happening almost every night going to bed, just this habit, this constant thing, until I moved here, really. That's when it stopped.
So at 7 years old, and if this is too intimate or personal, don't answer it. It's okay. It's all good.
Yeah.
But every night was it the same level of abuse or?
No, so it progressed, like it got worse. So even before like the initial, because I can't remember the first time it happened.
Yeah.
But I do remember years. Like, for example, I remember that when I was old enough to get baptized at the age of 8, it was already happening.
Yeah.
And I remembering that was my first worthiness interview with an ecclesiastical leader, and thinking that I needed to confess something to him at the age of 8 because of what my dad was doing, because I didn't understand
That makes sense.
that wasn't me.
Yeah. So that was I mean, and once again, was that for you at that age, as best of your memory, right? Is it kind of an empty place, dark place? What for you were you just so obviously so innocent?
Yeah.
That was there part of you that just thought, well, maybe this is what every
Yeah.
I mean,
definitely.
Yeah.
I think because as a 7-year-old, 8-year-old, you don't have words to describe what happened,
Right.
or what was going on. So I think, I think even at 16, I'm jumping around.
That's
but
okay.
you guys are the editors. You don't have to. I don't have to.
It's
do
okay.
It
It doesn't
you guys,
matter.
That's your
No. This is just a conversation. It's not a timeline.
So I didn't have even the words at 16 when I went to a bishop and confessed at 16, thinking it was my fault. And the words I used were, I let my dad do this.
Okay.
I let my dad touch me inappropriately.
Right.
Like, I felt blame.
And at 16, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
That you're right there.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the logic there is now okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But really not even until like a couple years ago did I understand that it's very illegal, that like what the words are, that it's considered abuse.
Right.
Like I didn't understand that and really until 2 years ago, which we'll talk about more later.
Yeah.
But
So a couple side note questions to the whole thing. And obviously, as I consider Ashley and just think about it myself, and those who are listening, watching, whatever, maybe you think the same thing. But I'm like, I number one, I think about my home with my children growing up, and I have to my mind goes to your mother, not in a bad way or anything. I just kind of ask the question. Did she know? Did she understand? What did she think was what were Dad's lies to get into the room every night? I mean, I just so help. And the other thing, not just for me to know, but this format, right? Hopefully, which Ashley's been out in public and spoke on all this, and so this is for learning, right?
Yeah.
This is for
Yeah,
people that
need
maybe
to
there's
know.
someone listening that can go, oh,
it's education.
So
people need
walk
to be
me
aware.
through that a little bit too.
Okay. So first your question was more, like what was my dad doing to get away with it, basically,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
For
and your
that
mom's
long?
role in that,
Yeah.
if there really was any,
Yeah.
you know.
So
but-
I'll tell you what, I understand.
Yeah.
So I remember as a kid, I'll tell you more of my thoughts and feelings too as a kid. I remember, basically I'd go to bed and wait for him, if he was going to come, if he wasn't, always hoping that, that would be the night that he wouldn't come in, right?
Right.
And, not sleeping well because I was just, wondering if he's going to come and
Yeah.
terrified, not
Right.
understanding.
Yeah.
And I remember, when he would come and molest me, do what he did, I remember feeling like it was a long time. It was 15, 20 minutes. I don't know how long it was,
Oh,
right?
but
But as
as
a
a little
kid,
gr-
getting tortured, basically,
Yeah.
it felt like such a long time. And sometimes my mom was one wall away, in the living room watching TV. And I remember thinking I almost praying I hope she can walk by and
Yeah.
see and catch him. So I don't have to, because I didn't know how to say it. I didn't
Yeah.
know how to tell her that it was happening. And I also wondering as a kid, why isn't she wondering where he is? Why
Right.
isn't she looking for him or coming in to see what he's doing? But I think she had no idea. I think she just didn't know. I think she thought it was completely innocent, him tucking his daughter into
Yeah.
bed. She also worked a lot of nights. She was a retail manager, and so she had to close a lot of nights. But yeah, I remember as a kid just wondering the same things that you're saying, why isn't she wondering where he is? Why isn't she coming
Yeah.
to find, to see
Yeah.
what he's doing? And yeah, it just never happened.
Well, and
She just
even
never
young,
did.
yeah, I know. And at younger ages, it would seem like, well, tucking her into bed. But at older ages, you would
Yeah.
really start to wonder
Yeah,
at
you'd-
that point, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe, my memories, I don't remember, when she started working full-time or whatever.
So your mother's part, you feel like was innocent.
Yeah,
I mean, in general,
as
right?
far as I know,
As far as
she
you know.
didn't
Yeah.
suspect anything.
Yeah.
So, which is very common, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But just because, it
Yeah,
doesn't,
yeah.
you wouldn't, that's not what you want to think. So, anyways.
None of your dad's behaviors, though, on the outside, indicated that you know of. I mean, obviously,
No.
yeah.
I think looking back now, my dad worked from home for a lot of the time that he was abusing me, and his home office was in my room. I found porn on the computer.
Okay.
And so now thinking back,
Right.
I can kind of put the pieces together. And I think even for my mom knowing now, she knew that he had a porn addiction at the time. I don't know how, if she did right when he was, but I think now it's kind of oh, wow, so this was happening also.
Right.
Anyways,
Yeah.
so kind
Yeah.
of fit the pieces in hindsight a little bit, but we could never be in my dad's mind of understanding. So,
Well, no.
Yeah.
Obviously not.
no.
Yeah. So the other thing I wondered was just as a little girl, you said as these things went on, you felt like you had a prayer in your heart.
Yeah, a lot of prayers.
Yeah. And what was the home like, gospel wise? I mean, is this something? Explain it. So,
Yeah.
what you think you saw, or your brother? What was, it's kind of explain what he thinks his experience was, right, for him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so I think I remember as a little kid knowing that what my dad was doing was wrong. We went to primary, we went to church, we were active members. My parents had callings. And so I remember knowing that it wasn't right, but I also was so confused because this was my dad, and my dad went to the same church as me. So if I knew as a little kid that it was wrong, why
Right.
was my dad doing it if he was the adult and he was my dad? If that sounds so simple, but it's not. To a little kid, that's so confusing. That your caretaker
sure.
and your provider and also your priesthood leader, your religious patriarch in your home is doing these things that as a little tiny primary goer are not okay. You're not sure why, but that's so confusing. And yeah, like you said, maybe thinking, well, maybe this is what dads do. Well, maybe this is normal.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. Especially from that age, right?
yeah.
And so, you know, was there any time in those early teen years that you were that you tried, or, you know, the voice inside your head asking to
Yes.
not do this, or
Yes.
Yeah.
So I
what
remember
did you get out of that?
at least twice. I remember a lot of the times I would like be praying or thinking in my head as a little kid, whatever you want to call it, like before he'd come in, like, is tonight the night you're going to tell him to stop? And like kind of trying to work
Yeah.
myself up to be courageous enough. Sorry, that makes me emotional because
Yeah.
a kid shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, that's right. That's true.
But anyways, that's like hard to remember, like as a little kid, like me having to be brave enough to tell your dad, you need to cut this out.
Yeah.
But anyways, I remember once asking him, or I don't remember the words. They probably were very simple, but just like, I don't want you to do this anymore.
How old were you?
I don't remember.
Oh, what's
but
your
it
guess?
was it.
What's your
it was
guess?
preteen. It was
Oh,
probably
preteen. So maybe
yeah. It had to be, I don't know, 10, 11.
Yeah. Okay.
9, 10, 11.
Right.
And I remember, just saying, like, no, like, I don't want you to do this anymore. And they're, like, I don't know if this will be graphic, but along with the molestation is, like, kissing and other things, like, leading up to the climax of whatever he was doing. And so I remember him asking, like, okay, but can I still kiss you? And I remember I was just so glad that he was going to stop molesting me, that I was like, yes, because I was just so glad. But then eventually the kissing worked back up
Right.
to what it had been before.
Yeah.
And then the only other time that I confronted him and asked him to stop was the first night when we moved to Utah, our first night at our new apartment here. He came in just like he always did. I assume that he was going to molest me again. I don't know. But he came in just like he always did, and I just told him, like, no, I don't want you to. And he just said, okay, and he left the room. And then it never happened again. But, yeah, those are the 2 times that I can remember being brave enough, having to be brave enough to ask, him to not do that. So,
Yeah. Wow.
yeah.
I'm speechless. That's not good for a podcast.
Oh, yeah, you got to keep going.
I really. So, 13-year-old girl. It ends. Beautiful. That's nice. It was over.
Oh, yeah, it's
at
done.
least.
Yeah, that, like, he stopped.
Yeah. Was there any threats? I mean, like, you know,
That's, people
normal
ask
interaction.
that a lot.
Yeah. Was there threats there?
So no, but I remember when I did ask him to stop, he would say, his line was, I was only doing it to make you happy. And I remember even as a kid, I knew that was a lie.
Yeah.
Because I just remember, like, I always think primary, like, I knew that eternally that was not going to make me happy. And that was also confusing, that my dad, who would bear his testimony, who would serve in these callings, and who knew what I knew supposedly better than me because he was older than me, telling me, well, I just wanted to make you happy. I was just doing it to make you happy. And I knew that wasn't really going to make him or me eternally happy.
Yeah. So, with that, right, I'm amazed you still have your faith. How'd you do that? Like, seriously,
That's
right?
a good question.
I mean, really, because, you know, the most trusted people, those are sacred relationships, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, they're sacred. They're not just family.
What's a trust? Yeah.
They're sacred. They're
Right.
holy. We right? We believe, you know, in eternal families.
Yeah.
These are the most sacred things, right? So I'm, you know, I guess on a couple fronts, I'm just so impressed that you go through that and you served a mission.
Yeah.
So you know, you come through that time period of pretty short few years there, you know, 7 years or whatever at 20 back. Did you go at 20 years old?
Yeah, I was 20.
Yeah. So, you know, 6, 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do you think helped you do that? given the fact that, you know, the most sacred trust has been broke for years and years and years. Here's you're looking at the religious leader, right? Let's put it that way. And father, all those things. All those things have just been shattered in a sense. So, you know, how do you find yourself there?
So honestly, my answer is not as impressing as you're expecting. But honestly, it's because your brain buries it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it, like, going on a mission, you don't think about it. You're not, like, yes, you have anxiety and these things that are, like, could be triggered by the initial abuse, but you don't know because you don't let yourself think about it.
Yeah, your brain protected you.
Yep.
It put it away.
Survival mode.
Yep.
And that's how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how.
Until a couple years ago.
And so for you, in that sense, right, gospel-wise, you're in your religion, you're in a religious home in that sense. I mean, and you know, your mom.
Yeah.
Did you have a good relationship with your mom?
Yeah.
Did you find it hard not to say something?
The four of us, me, my brother, my parents, we're very, close-knit. It was the four of us. We moved from California away from all of our extended family alone. So, we became very close, which is so, like, contradictory, right, when you think of that disgusting abuse that was happening. But you said you had a question. You just asked it.
Your mom.
Yes.
Did you have what I was, and I'm sorry,
about
I get talking
telling
fast.
her. You said, like, did I ever want to tell her?
Yeah. I'm just curious about that relationship, right?
Yeah. So honestly, since I was a little kid, in my mind, I convinced myself that I could not tell her because I believed as a little kid, if I told my mom, my parents would split.
Yeah.
I would never see my dad again. I still, like, cared about my dad. He was still my dad as a kid. He is still like your buddy. He plays with you, but then he does this thing at night that you don't understand.
Yeah.
So I think I, like, told myself since a little kid, ingrained in my mind, I can't tell because my whole family will be torn apart, and I feel like it would be my fault for telling.
Yeah.
So
That's amazing what that does, the guilt and
you
know, for a young girl.
Yeah.
I mean,
a little kid. Yeah.
So how about your brother? So you just kept the secret to yourself?
Yeah, it was just me.
I can tell. I don't even need to ask.
Never told until the first person I remember. I had to be 9 or 10, and we were at a family party, probably Christmas Eve or something, with my dad's side of the family. And I remember a cousin talking to me, and she brought something up, like a bad habit or something. And I remember approaching her because it was the same bad habit I had. And I remember asking her, like, oh, like, does your dad do this to you too? And she turned to me, no. And she's really grossed out. And so I feel like that also, like, that reaction was like, oh, like, so this isn't, like, normal, or this is gross. And then I felt like I was gross because I was letting my dad do that to me. So that's the first memory I have of telling anyone, which is kind of like, she was 9 too. So we're both kids.
Pretty young.
Yeah, so she probably she doesn't even remember, probably.
Right.
But then the next person I told was at 16, telling my bishop, my ecclesiastical leader.
Walk me through that.
Okay.
Don't want names.
No.
Don't want any of that.
I'm glad you said
we
that.
don't even care. No, that's not the point. That's not the
no.
point here. It's just that, walk me through what happened there a little bit from your perspective and what, maybe what an ecclesiastical leader was trying to accomplish.
Yeah. So honestly, at 16, I've had very strong spiritual impressions that I needed my patriarchal blessing. But I felt like I had to confess these sexual sins. I knew. I read The First Strength of Youth. I knew the law of chastity, right? Like, I knew, like, okay, I'm not going to be worthy to receive that if I don't tell him these things that I've done that are wrong. Also, as a kid, I was addicted to masturbation because of what my dad did.
Right.
So all those years, I'm like, okay, so I have the two big ones in my mind at 16. okay, masturbation. I didn't even know that that was a word because it's not in the First Strength of Youth pamphlet. It says, like, don't touch the body, your sacred parts of your body to arouse sexual emotions or whatever.
Right.
So I didn't even know that word. But so that one, and then what I let my dad did. In my mind, that's what I had to go and confess.
Yeah.
That was so hard. Like, but I, like, knew I wanted my patriarchal blessing, and I knew God wanted me to have it. And so that was very humbling, emotional for me. I remember bawling a lot. And, like,
Right,
I'm
right.
the one who called to make the appointment with the bishop as a 16-year-old, which is huge. Like, coming from my background, I feel like for me to take
for
the
any
initiative.
kid, no matter
exactly,
what, right?
right?
It's just
to call the bishop, that's
yeah, yeah.
terrifying.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for
and
sure.
everybody talks about it in youth and things
Yeah.
of what you don't do anything so you don't have to confess to the bishop. But it's like, crap, it's already too late.
Right.
So I remember going in the interview, very emotional. I didn't want to have to say, right? Because you feel gross, you
Right.
feel bad, you feel like you're scared that he's going to be like, well, you can't take the sacrament. And everybody's going to see you not taking the sacrament and
Yeah.
think, oh, I know what she did, right?
Right.
Like all of these terrible things in your head. And so I had to, I went to him, I told him what happened. I'm crying. He tells me he very like gracious, right? Like totally helped me be at peace.
So you felt comfortable with.
Yeah. He told me, he like clarified and said like, I need to bring your dad in to talk about that then. Is that like, do you understand that? I was like, yes. And I remember going in, they're probably going to have my dad come in. But I still thought it was my fault
Yeah.
because I thought I let him
Yeah.
do that. I thought, I
Right.
didn't fight him off hard enough, I guess. Anyways, in your head.
Right.
So I knew he was going to have an interview. I remember being scared. I didn't know if I was going to get in trouble. I didn't know if my dad would be
It is
mad.
scary.
Because
Yeah.
it was never spoken of. Never. Like you didn't,
Right.
me and him never talked about it. I'm
Right.
not talking about it with anybody. I'm sure he's not talking about it. So yeah, kind of like unknown.
Yeah,
Like how's
this
my dad going to react?
Family secret.
Yes. And so, I remember, I don't remember how long after, like a few days or something, my dad approached me and just said, hey, I know what you told the bishop, and I just wanted to say I'm sorry. And I can't remember if I said anything. I remember it was very awkward. I didn't want to talk to him about it.
Right.
If I said anything, I probably would have just said, okay.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember walking away.
Just because of your nature.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, and like, what do you say?
Yeah.
After not
Well,
talking about
I
it.
could tell you what you could say, but
Well, I could
because
too now, but
this is a wholesome program,
yeah,
right?
yeah. But at 16 with your
I
own
mean,
dad.
really, yeah, because anyway, we won't go. I'm just joking
Yeah,
about,
no,
but still, like, but girls, teenage girls, my 3 daughters, I can, in those teenage years, you're kind of going to yourself anyways,
Yeah.
and they don't, they're not going to want to go up against
No.
their father, and so it makes sense. I mean, it just makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And
But I
that's
wish
how
you
it
would have
ended.
said a few things.
I think at that age,
Yeah.
even the way I said it to my bishop, I think I said, like I said, I let my dad touch me inappropriately. And that was it. Like, so that's all the bishop's information. He
Yeah.
didn't ask any more
Right.
questions.
Yeah.
It was just, okay, I need to call your dad in.
Yeah.
Are you aware of that? Yes.
Were there implications for him?
No. At that time, no. So
How do you feel about that as you went through this process? Like,
now
I mean,
my
back
mind
then.
is,
Let's go. I don't want
Let's
to. I don't
go
want to go
back.
fast forward
Yeah.
because I mean we're going to bring you and Jason in, and that's
Yeah.
going to be part of when you're married and you look back.
Yeah.
But I mean, okay, at 16, 17 years old, you probably just moved on from that, right? You
Yeah,
thought,
I
okay, this is
didn't-
how it
I
works.
trusted the bishop.
Right.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that was wrong. that
Right.
wasn't the right consequence, I should say. So yeah, I just was like, cool. I told him, I confessed, I'm good. I was more focused on, okay, cool, I've been forgiven.
Yeah. And did you feel
More
that?
than him.
Did you
Yeah.
feel that healing?
Yes.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I definitely
That's
did.
awesome.
Got my patriarchal blessing, and
Yeah.
I just kind of moved on. Like you
Right
said,
there.
very self-centered.
Yeah.
Like teenager. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I did this for me.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
don't really know. Like, I guess everything was cool with my dad. Just moved on.
Which is really a beautiful blessing for you
Yeah.
individually,
Oh,
if you
yeah.
look at it that way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So, how many, we take you to kind of that period then, where your teenage years to your mission, you know, and maybe even in the mission a little bit. I want to ask you a few things about the mission, but how many triggers? How many triggers were there, do you think? I mean, I know you don't need a
No.
number, but like
No.
that's the thing with the memory, right?
Yeah.
And as it pushes stuff back and it hides them and it layers them up with all kinds of stuff, so to protect.
Yeah.
But like you said, there's those triggers. How often do you have to deal with that, and what did it make you think along the way?
Yeah. So I think, honestly, at the time, I didn't know they were triggers. So, but I will tell you, in hindsight now, I look back, I had a lot of fainting spells right after I went through puberty. And that's super common, is like that's a trigger.
Oh.
Because like it's your sexual system
Yeah.
like starting.
Yeah.
And so that I would have, I remember going and getting like tubes and stuff in my head because my mom was like, "What's wrong? She keeps fainting. Like, what is wrong?" And they were like, "Nothing. Like, her brain scans are clear.
Yeah.
Everything's fine." But that was like a big problem for like my probably from like 11 to I don't know, 15. Like, it's just
okay.
fainting,
Yeah.
like over things and
Yeah.
stressful situations.
Yeah.
And that's definitely like a psychological thing that your body does.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so looking back now, it's like, oh, that's probably why. Because I was being abused for some of those years still.
Right.
And going through puberty. And anyways, so fainting spells, anxious at school.
Yeah, and there's a part of you, you know, that is stressed.
Yeah.
You know, really, I mean, you just can't consciously, you know, process all this
Yeah.
information, but your body is saying,
It's
right?
on hyper alert.
Boom.
Yeah. It's,
Yeah.
Yeah. Anxiety at school, having like panic attacks, not knowing that is a panic attack, having like calling my dad who was home working to pick me up,
Yeah.
having a panic attack before he takes me to school the next day. He tells me, "No, you have to go to school. Like, it can't be like this
Yeah.
every day." And like junior high and things like that. So I think like lots of anxiety and not understanding. And then, there's other stuff later, like after marriage, obviously, and things that
Right.
triggered. But
Yeah,
you wanted
no.
to know more in the mission, though.
Yeah, well, and I think at this point too, I want to just let you have kind of your moment here. If you could tell mothers and daughters, and you know, like what are those key things you would say to someone who listens? Just go, you know, let me just shout this out right here and give you kind of the bottom line on this.
Yeah.
From someone who's been through it, and if you're listening. Right? Or
Yeah.
you're a mother and you have a husband who is into pornography, let's say,
Yeah.
or other habits that are
Yeah.
are not right morally, that are you know, that could cause other behaviors, not that they do for every man,
Yes.
but you know,
Yeah.
like what would you say? I mean, I just kind of want to do that because I just think your format, you've spoken public, right?
Yeah.
Like I want you to have that moment here, and you can say it any time, but I'm just saying, what would you tell? What would you tell?
So right now, like just kind of going off kind of how you presented that, is two main things. One, totally agree with what you just said about people addicted to pornography. Not every addict to porn is a pedophile or going to go molest children or rape people.
Right.
That's just not true. Like,
Right.
it's just not. And so just know that if you have porn addicts in your family, like, it doesn't mean that they're going to go off and do those things. Anyways, porn does
Yeah.
affect your brain
Yeah,
and
no.
everything. And we know that, but just know that I just always tell people, like, people can
Don't
be
take the-
addicted to
don't
porn,
take the leap,
but it's
yeah.
not like they're gonna go be in prison
Right.
for years and years because they're molesting kids and stuff. But also, I think don't underestimate how common it is. That's really my huge message. Is unfortunately, I hate this, but the statistics are only based on what is it called? Where people come forward and share. So statistics are
Yeah,
only
you're not
based
going to get
on-
the secret.
Yes.
Those who keep the secret,
and
right?
those are already bad. The statistics are
Give
already
us the
terrible.
statistics.
So it's one in
I don't.
5
Okay.
kids under 18 in Utah will be sexually abused. Boy or girl, 1 in 5. That's the average.
Oh,
1 in 4
same with
boys,
boys and-
1 in 6. So the average between both is 1 in 5.
Okay.
Before the age of 18, they will be abused in some way, whether that's subjecting them to porn or naked, inappropriate videos or pictures, whether it's touching, whether any type of sexual abuse. It will happen.
So
before
does it
18.
run the gamut of that's not just familial.
No, that's anybody.
That could be dating.
Yeah,
We're
but then
I mean, do
88
they
yeah.
fall in there?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. So it's any type, but then 88% of abusers, perpetrators, are somebody they know and trust.
Yeah.
So that's where you've got to do some homework on what are those signs? Is somebody wanting to spend abnormal amounts of times with your kids alone? Right. There's those triggers, and there's plenty of information online and things. Prevent Child Abuse Utah and other resources that you can look at those signs, but don't underestimate how common it is, because with 1 in 5, chances are several people that it's happened to.
And so the thing about this is, I listen and I go, okay, in your situation, right? If your mother were listening, let's make this assumption and leap back in time, right?
Yeah.
If she were listening to this, right, and she heard someone go through this right here, how would she go about that?
How would she go about
I'm like
finding out,
I'm like the people who may listen to this
Yeah.
that have this thought in their brain. How do they double check the behaviors?
That's a great question.
Yeah, I mean,
I think number 1 to me is I wish as a kid I had the words to tell, because how was I going to tell? I didn't even know what to say.
Yeah.
So I think having that open dialogue with children in your life and teaching them the proper anatomical terms so that it's comfortable. So it's not like a joke to talk about those things.
Right.
So that they don't think they're going to come to you and you're going to make fun of them for bringing that up.
There you go.
So I think that, and also teaching the kids that they need to have several trusted adults, that if something like that happens, and you're teaching them at an age-appropriate level, right?
Right.
But tell them, hey, walk them through. Who would you tell? Ask them. And if that's you're one of the trusted adults, great. If not, maybe look at their circles of influence and have one in each. So maybe one family member, one church person, one school person, a teacher, something, a friend's parent or something. But having several people that they know, hey, this isn't right. Maybe teach them. If somebody's doing X, Y, Z, who are you going to tell? And you should tell.
Yeah.
Don't keep that a secret, because that keeps your body unsafe. And
don't you think in the midst of that, there's, it's like, I don't know these stories perfectly, but you take an Elizabeth Smart, right? And so it's kind of totally different abduction.
Yeah.
But there's the threat.
Yeah.
So he's threatening her as he takes her out of the house.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He's going to do whatever to the parents.
Yep.
And so, I think part of that training, and I'm not sure, I would, would be something on the age-appropriate level to say if there's a threat, they may say that, would you do that? Would you talk to them about the threat? Or would you, it just seems like such a, it just shuts a little girl down, right?
So that's a good question. I think, go off the kids. I think giving that base knowledge of these things are wrong. You need to tell somebody if anybody tries to do these things in front of you, with you. And then let the kids kind of take the lead. If their mind goes to that abduction place or whatever. But also, like we said, don't just be stuck on stranger danger and abduction, because the more likely it's somebody that they already know, that that your family knows.
And I want to clarify a little bit. I used Elizabeth Smart, but what I was referring to is, even if, let's say it was
threats.
a family friend. It's not an abduction. I'm just saying a family friend
threats.
would threaten, right? In general,
So
or do they?
Definitely, you could tell the kid, they might try to trick you or make you feel bad and not tell. And then you ask them, but should you still tell? And the kids know. They're like, yes, I should still tell.
Yeah.
So you're right.
Yeah.
You can kind of explain it to them on their level.
Yeah.
So.
That's heavy.
It is.
That's heavy. I'm not going to do this anymore.
I ruined it for you.
I'm ruined, man.
No more.
No. Okay,
deep.
so Let's go. I want to just as we kind of move through, your patriarchal blessing, was that kind of a miracle for you?
Yeah, huge revelation. I feel like personal revelation to get that.
Yeah, I got mine when I was about 12 or 13, right? And I still refer, to those years for me personally. And I was kind of wanting to ask you on that. I referred to it often. It gave me, in good times and bad, as a teenager, in anything I did, it really was a foundation. Did you find that for you?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Very personal. I feel like to read that.
Yeah, I think those documents are amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The revelation there that just seems to, this is soul dive here. So like a patriarchal blessing many times is a soul script, right?
Yep.
It's God's wishes and his blessings for us individually.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So I think as a little girl, even as a teenager, I think you were what 15 or 16 when you got the blessing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you found that as a guiding light for you?
Yeah, that was definitely a huge, I feel like, jumping off point into, like finishing high school and going towards a mission and everything.
So going towards the mission, all that culminated. You were good, went on a mission, happy, right? Felt like it was all behind you.
Yeah, didn't even think about it.
Beautiful.
Didn't even face anything.
How's the mission?
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I think about it every day.
Miss the people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely dream about going back and just hugging them and seeing them.
They're beautiful people, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
So, all right. I think for me, this was the core of it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of good. I'm good here.
Okay.
I want to. Let's just take a few minutes here and just after you served, you came home. How long was it before you met Jason?
I met Jason. It was September. I have to do the math. October, November, December, January. Oh, I met him probably like 5 months after I got home.
Okay, and then you married after that?
Married like 11 months after getting
home. Oh, wow.
home. Yeah.
Well, I would hesitate too with Jason, just so you know I wouldn't, Jason. You know that. But I'm just saying, I got to give Jason a hard time. So,
we never thought we'd be those people who got married within a year of coming home, but we are, and it's fine.
Yeah.
So it happens.
It's all good.
Yeah.
A lot of us did that.
Yeah.
My wife and I did that. It was beautiful.
You're still
is.
I know, it's great,
That
right?
was awesome.
But you just never thought that you'd be that person.
Okay, so we love Ashley. We appreciate Jason. And so at this point, what I want to kind of throw out there is that the next podcast will be Jason and Ashley together. And we're gonna bring these worlds together. And I don't know that I can really put words to what they went through as a married couple because of what happens next. And it's really pretty phenomenal that they've come out and they're so healthy, beautiful little daughter. Is that just the love of your life right there, right?
Yeah, we adore her. Yeah, she's the best.
So dang cute. Okay, so as we wrap this up, there's one more thing with the stories. I think it's really important for everyone to understand that Ashley's father and Jason's father, these stories kind of don't get any better with this part, but they both were convicted and they did time. Yeah. And so they went to prison, and I mean and so as sad as that is what we're going to start into next time with Ashley and Jason. So thanks for being here.